Okay, so let's just quickly recap our async.js first. So whatever we have learned in last lecture, we're going to give that a quick brief recap. Okay. So let's say I have a variable let 3 and this basically says code starts there. I have a variable or let's say I console dot log these grid. Then I have a function which is basically called one printer, and this goes and consoles dot log or example let one equals to one, and it console dot logs println one. Let me create 2-3 functions of this same caliber, and this thing will go and into. I can just remove this and let's just go in here too. And this will be taken. Now, if I go and just do a call of this function, so let's say I'm calling one printer and I'm calling two printer and I'm calling three print, right? And then finally, I'm doing console dot log code ends. Check what are we gonna get in response? Okay, what are we gonna get in response? अभी fix करने के बाद fix करने के बाद. So first thing, the code execution is gonna run. Execution context बनने वाला है. Yes. So how many global variables do we have? Global variables including your functions. Quickly. We don't have time, so quickly. In total 4 stuff है हमारे पास. Let me create my execution context here. Take this. Take it. In here, I have one variable which is basically called greet, and I'm going to give it a value of undefined. Then I have a function which is called one printer, right? And then I have a function which is called two printer, and then I have a function which is called three printer. Take aside from these three, do we have anything else which we can put here in our global execution context? Yes, correct. So do we put let in our global execution context? No, right? It should be where. Why so? Because let and const were given or developed later in ES6, and let and const don't go in a GEC. I hope you understand global execution context. Rather, they go in dormant place, which is called temporal dead zone. Take now, this thing is a hypothetical space which we have developed. Just we just put our let and const wale variable, right? So if you go and do console.log var wala variable, if it does not has any value, you're gonna get undefined. Take. But if you go and do let and constant, you're going to get a reference error saying that that thing is not defined at all. Okay, so where is going to be here and it's going to be undefined. Is it correct now, people? Quickly, global execution context. Abhi theek hai? Just go through this thing again. Let me just zoom it in. Abhi global execution context clear hai? Take. Now this thing, this space is called global execution context. This phase is called phase. क्या बोलते हैं? Correct. Creation phase, or you might have heard memory phase, right? Or memory creation phase, anything. Take. And this process is actually, it has a name which is called hoisting, right? I think I missed this term in last lecture. Yes. This process of sending everything या फिर attendance लेना of these variables is gonna be called your hoisting. That's exactly it. Hoisting but इतना ही होता ठीक. And in hoisting, where वाले variables are sent to your creation phase and global execution context, and let and const are sent to where? Temporal dead zone, TDZ. Tick. All right. Then we are gonna do our execution phase, right? Execution phase may we are gonna give these variables value, and these functions are gonna send to which stack? Execution phase mein functions are gonna be sent to which stack? Call stack, right? And then one by one, every function is gonna run and your code is gonna execute. इतना clear था? Basic synchronous JS, one line, हर एक line. ठीक. Now what we did was we messed up around a bit and we said that we can go and make this thing asynchronous by writing a set time, right? So let's say I go in here and I write one printer, and here what do I pass? Two parameters I have to pass, two arguments rather. First one is your callback function. Second one is delay, which is in milliseconds, right? So let's say यहाँ पे I have put 6,000 milliseconds. ठीक. Then the another set timeout, self set timeout. This thing is gonna be to printer, and I'm gonna put a 4,000 milliseconds delay. And in here, I'm gonna go and write one printer, and this thing is gonna have a 2 seconds of delay. Tick. So yeah. Tick. So can you guys tell me what are we gonna get as solution, including these consoles? So you can just write console 1 and console 2. That's fine by me. For these two. 1 is 2 times, yeah, I'll fix that. Tick. And please do it quickly because we are a bit of the schedule. Promises be pardoned. Correct. Jeevan, correct. Correct. Abhijit. Right. What about others? Praveen, correct. Vanvi, correct. Sheikh, correct. Jyoti, correct. ठीक है चलो guys, now let's try to understand साथ में करते current correct. ठीक है अभी सबको यहाँ पे focus करो. First thing first, we are gonna come at 28 and 30. Do we have any async functions between these or any functions at all? So we should run this console directly, right? So code will start here. That's gonna print, right? Then we have these functions and we are running them, right? So should we wait for one printer to spend 6 seconds and then we should print one printer, or should we just move on given that we are using set timeout? Move on, right? So we're going to move to line number 49. Is this again an async task? So we're going to move on again. Then we're going to visit line number 50. This again is an async task. So हम फिर से move on करेंगे and we're going to finally reach at 52. Now this thing has end, right? So we're going to print that. That's clear. Take. Then which one of these are going to run faster? 3. So we are going to print that 3. Then second and then first. Tick. I hope that was clear. Tick. Chalo. So quickly tell me what's the answer for this thing. This statement. These all bracket represent an option. Just pick one option and write it in separate line. So you have 4 different options. Given correct. Ankita, correct. Harshit, correct. Sheikh, correct. Vanavi, correct. Jyoti, correct. Oh, Jyoti, last one. Check that out once. Karan, last one. Rohit, correct. Check it. Chalo, let's do it quickly again. So, okay, we have three more answers. So, Vishay, first two are correct. Check your last two. Vishay. Ankush, correct. Okay, now let's do it together. So, JavaScript is a dash threaded language. Is it a single threaded language? Right? So, JavaScript is a single threaded language. So that means that it's going to be a synchronous type of language, given that it's only single threaded, एक ही direction में it can move, right? So this thing is pretty clear from the last statement that JavaScript is a single thread language and a synchronous language, which can become asynchronous with the help of which of these two? Browser, right? Because we don't have access to any other thread. We just said that JavaScript is single threaded. So single, and then it's gonna be synchronous, and it takes help from browser, right? Rather than a external thread. क्योंकि अगर external thread होता, then we would have called JavaScript double threaded. ठीक? And the browser provides help via something which are called web APIs. Right? Call stack is present in your JavaScript engine only. Tick, call stack, execution context and all is present in JavaScript engine. Okay, so now let's go and check these things out real quick. So we have a nice little code here. I'm going to pick this up and we're going to go and visit a website which is called this one. Now in here, we are just gonna run this piece of code and we'll see what happens. Right? So check it. Yeah. All right. So I'll run it. It runs pretty fast. So एक बार I'm gonna run it entirely. Then we're gonna pause it somewhere. ठीक तो एक बार ध्यान देना ध्यान से देखना. It's gonna run pretty fast. But then we're gonna watch it after pausing. All right. Check it. So yeah, I started it. Uh, wait. No, I must be missing something. एक second में. Okay, let's first run this thing on browser. Appears there's some error, I guess. Let me just quickly run it on browser. Yeah, so code starts here, code ends here, print 3 to 1. Okay, that seems fine. Function 3, one variable declared. Oh, that's not an issue. That's not an issue. Mm, okay, let me restart the browser once. Let me share again real quick. And we have this here, and it says, let me remove the necessary things. And we have 1 pointer, 2 pointer, and 3 pointer. Give it within script tag. No, JavaScript है run करता है. I mean, I have not used it, so maybe that might be an issue. Let me first run this thing. It's working or not. ठीक है, that is working. Okay, ठीक है, कोई नहीं. Refreshing might have worked. कोई नहीं. तो let me rerun it और एक बार watch from starting. चलो, कुछ समझ आया? You saw the entire thing? Yes, no, anything? You guys can see the browser, right? Or am I running it? ठीक है, चलो चलो, let's start it, and I'll show you after pausing. ठीक, I'm gonna pause it. You saw कि this call stack just executed this line number 1. ठीक, it's a bit fast, so you'll have to bear with me. ठीक है, so you'll see कि if I run it na, the console.log line is gonna run instantly. Then we are gonna run this set timeout wala line, and then these 3 line are gonna run, right? But we know कि that these are asynchronous function. तो call stack में आने के बाद they are gonna go and get transferred to web APIs. Right. So first let's talk about that. फिर और अच्छे से समझ आएगा. तो first thing first, this code is gonna come in here in my call stack. Right. And up until there is no nesting, अगर nesting नहीं है, तो call stack is gonna just deal with one function and then it's gonna throw it out up until there is not nesting in that functions. Right, so we're getting this function and we're throwing it out. Then we are going at this one. ठीक, अभी क्या हुआ? Given that this thing is async function, right? So once this line comes out, now it's thrown into web API, right? It's a representation. This website is actually representation of how web APIs can all work. ठीक, so now web API has our 1 printer, and it has our 2 printer, and it has our 3 printer. ठीक, it has 6 seconds of cooldown. This thing has 4 seconds of cooldown, and this thing has 2 seconds of cooldown. Which one is gonna end first? Third one. तो ये क्या होगा? It's gonna go and send to callback queue. ठीक, this thing is called callback stack, and this thing is called callback queue. ठीक, so third printer is here, right? Then the second printer is gonna end, and वो यहाँ पे आएगा. तो second print is gonna come here, and then first print is gonna come here. Right, now a quick lesson to you guys about queue. I'm gonna erase that. चलो कोई नहीं, यहाँ पे समझा देता हूँ. So remember stack में क्या होता था? If we are adding 1 2 3, how can I remove them? किस frequency में remove करेंगे? लिखो console.log. Is this not a function? Fundamentally method है ना? Methods are fundamentally functions, right? And what is this? Call stack. It's gonna call every function. ठीक, console is even gonna be in that, right? So इधर क्या होता है? We follow the principle of last in first out. जो last में गया, it's gonna come out first. So 3 is gonna come out first, then 2, then 1. Agree or no? Right? Then it's just opposite for your queues, right? तो queue का मतलब क्या होता है? Line, right? तो मान लो if this guy 1 went first, and then this guy 2 came, and then this guy 3 came. Who should go out first? फर्स्ट वाला, राइट? तो पहले फर्स्ट वाला निकलेगा, देन सेकंड वाला, देन थर्ड वाला. तो इट हैज अ प्रिंसिपल फर्स्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट और फीफो. सो लीफो एंड फीफो. इज दैट क्लियर? क्यू स्टैक और क्यू में डिफरेंस? ठीक, तो चलो क्विकली बताओ विच वन केम फर्स्ट. यहाँ पे कॉल बैक क्यू में फर्स्ट कौन आया? 3. तो 3, once that 3 is done running, इसका async complete हो जाएगा. तो it's gonna send to call stack first, then your second one will be sent, and then like of course it's gonna throw out, and then once second one is thrown out, first one will get inside. फ्लो क्लियर है क्या? एसिंक में फ्लो कैसे चल रहा है, कॉल स्टैक से लेके वेब एपीआई से लेके कॉल बैक क्यू तक? Everyone, is there anyone with any doubt? I'll start it over, but please tell me quickly. Rerun? I'll rerun, but एक बार बताओ, is this part clear? Everyone? ठीक? तो we are gonna talk about this thing just now, but अभी के लिए just I'm gonna rerun that. ठीक? So yeah, let me just quickly read. So you see the console.log rain and it's thrown out of call stack. Then we have our set timeout printer. Let me resume. Take to set pause. Take, so you see one printer is there, then two printer is there, then three printer is there. Right now, once I resume it, three printer is gonna end first. तो ये callback queue में जाएगा, then two printer, then one printer. So let me resume. ठीक, let me pause it again. Now these things are in callback queue. ठीक, अभी यहाँ से first your three printer will be sent, then two printer, then one printer, right? I paused it, तो थोड़ा सा mess up हुआ होगा. Let me rerun it once again. और ध्यान दें. ठीक, so one printer is there, now two printer is there, and three printer is there. ठीक, so three printer is sent to callback, then two printer will be sent, then one printer will be sent. ठीक, clear how that entire structure work, guys? Clear है? ठीक, तो now isn't this circle or whatever loop kind of thing is this, isn't this taking care of this web API से चीजें send हो रही है callback queue में and callback queue से चीजें send हो रही है call stack में? Isn't this thing taking care of that? Right? Keep in mind it's gonna run only two times, right? कब? When we have, when queue is not empty, queue empty नहीं है, and your call stack is empty, right? If call stack is empty, then this thing is gonna run. Given that queue is also not empty, queue में कुछ है but call stack is empty, then this thing is gonna run and it's gonna send stuff from call stack to this thing, right? Now this thing has a name which you guys might have heard. It is called event loop. Have you heard about this? राइट? सुनने में बहुत बड़ा कॉन्सेप्ट लगता है, बंदे बोलते भी है कि बहुत बड़ा कॉन्सेप्ट है. इज नथिंग, राइट? इट्स जस्ट अ ट्रैफिक पुलिस, ट्रैफिक कॉप है आपका, एंड इट टेक्स केयर ऑफ एसिंक में जो भी सेंड होता है फ्रॉम वेब एपीआईज टू कॉल बैक क्यू एंड कॉल बैक क्यू टू कॉल स्टैक. इट जस्ट फॉलोज दीज टू रूल्स. क्यू शुड नॉट बी एम्प्टी, क्यू में कुछ होना चाहिए डेटा, एंड कॉल स्टैक शुड बी एम्प्टी. क्लियर? एनी डाउट्स? राइट, सी इट्स जस्ट अ स्मॉल थिंग बट यू जस्ट नीड टू विजुअलाइज इट. तो ये रहा आपका वेबसाइट. क्लियर है गाइस इवेंट लूप क्या होता है? एनी डाउट्स? क्विकली रिपीट. ऑल राइट, आई विल रिपीट इट वंस अगेन. सो आई होप कि ये दो रूल्स क्लियर है कि this thing is gonna run only when, or event loop is gonna come in play only when queue has some values, right? If this queue has some value and your call stack is empty, this is gonna send things here, right? So basically you can say कि event loop takes care of async functions and it connects your web APIs with callback queue and call stack. It just follow two rules. First one is queue should not be empty, it should have some data, and call stack should be empty so that this thing can send data from queue to stack. अभी clear है? You just need to keep the flow in mind. तो flow ये रहा, stack से web API से callback queue and callback queue से call stack. Definition तो you guys can make yourself. Clear? Again, as I tell you guys कि fundamental समझ आ जाएगा तो everything is fine. Clear? Any doubts in this thing? No? ठीक है, ठीक है. So that was pretty much it that we covered in last lecture. ठीक, now shall we move towards promises? Promises पढ़े? Right? ठीक है. So yeah. So we just go in here and now we are gonna learn about something which is called promises. Take, let me just open the live server and quickly tell me what does promises means. I mean, Hindi meaning just that. Kasam Vade, right? So promises, let's say, if you guys promised at 1st Jan, ki you are gonna decrease your screen time, right? Based on social media, right? So screen time decrease करना है, ठीक? तो there are gonna be 3 states अब तक by now. What's it gonna be? Decreasing the screen time of social media. Either you have already broken it, right? 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 So either this thing is broken or it's pending, क्योंकि the year is pending still. Yes, yes, yes. And once this year is completed and you successfully decreased your screen time, can you say कि it's completed? Right? So a promise, beat any promise, it's gonna have 3 final solutions, resolutions actually, right? Either you are gonna keep it incomplete, either that thing is still in progress or it's completed. Yes or no, right? So in JavaScript also, the promises have 3 states, right? That is pending, it's still ongoing, resolved, it's done, and rejected. Check. Now anyone is thinking कि ठीक है, promises has these states, but what is promise? Any guess? No? So promise is an object. Promise is an object. And fundamentally, again, how do we create object? How do we create object? Fundamentally. Literal छोड़ के दूसरा वाला. What was that thing? पहला lecture, first lecture. Constructor. We saw that we can create strings, arrays, objects, functions, everything from there. Right? So do you guys think if I go in here and if I write let promise equals to new promise, I should be able to create a promise? Let's see. Given that I've told you guys the promise is an object. So this promise is gonna take a async function. Let me provide that. And if I go in here and if I console dot log promise wala variable, let's see what am I getting. I'm getting something which says promise is pending. If I open it, is this a object? Can you guys let me know? Right? How did you identify the object? New, right? The new keyword and this prototype thing. Right? And for now, it has one of the states that we talked about, which is pending. Pending है. Right? ठीक है. तो एक काम करते हैं. We know how we can create a promise, but do we know why do we need promises? Why do we need promises? Okay, let me give you guys a hint. It's going to be used to handle async functions. Handle async functions. Are we using something for now to handle async functions? कुछ भी ऐसा use कर रहे हैं जो कि maybe we are using it as handling async functions? Web API callback. Okay, okay. ठीक है. So we are using basically web APIs and callback together for doing that. Right? Right? ठीक है. Let me give you guys a hypothetical situation and you guys tell me if we need a solution for that thing or not. ठीक. And this thing is still there. Let me just reset it. And एक second देना. Let me quickly connect my pen again. That hypothetical situation is basically we are going to use our async functions for mostly one thing, which is going to be fetching the data, right? I hope कि fetching the data का मतलब अब तक समझ गए होगे, right? Getting the data from API, right? right? Or data from server, right? Right. Let's say I have a function, right, which is called server, and it gets data from the server, right? Now, of course, this thing is going to take some time. Kuch time lega fetching the data from server. Let's say we're fetching 10 million data. It's going to take some time. Do we need to make this function asynchronous? Yes or no? Function को asynchronous बनाना पड़ेगा. So where are we going to go? I mean, we know one thing for now, which is set timeout, right? हम set timeout के पास जाएंगे and we're gonna pass a callback in it, set timeout के अंदर, and we're gonna pass a delay. Are we clear till here? Just till here? How we can make this thing asynchronous, right? Let's say आपने assume किया and you put the callback and you put the delay as 4000 milliseconds. ठीक? Is this thing gonna be constant for every user or not? Tell me, how many different types of network do we have in India? Do you think 2G is still working? It works. Do you think 3G is still there? We have 4G and we even have 5G, right? Let's say developers tested that software for 4G. Are we missing 3G and 2G? Right? Do you think this 4000 might fell short for these two runtimes? It might take 8000 seconds, 8000 milliseconds. Yes. तो इस चीज को हार्ड कोड करना, is this something that we should go for? No, handling it with web APIs and callback is not something that we might go, right? वहीं पे promise provides a solution. Promise क्या बोलता है? I'm gonna run a function. If it's done, then only I'm gonna tell you that this thing is resolved. If it's not done, I'm gonna give you a flag which is going to be called pending. And if there is server error, I'm gonna tell you it is gonna be rejected. So should we wait for something, or should we go for a solution that we can see it's going to give us in 3 states? If it's still pending, it's going to give me pending. If it's resolved, it's going to tell me that thing is resolved. And if it's rejected, it's going to tell me rejected. यहाँ पे you're waiting and waiting. You don't have anything. Is it pending? Is it done? Is it still running? Do you have any idea in this thing? Up until that data is loaded? No. But यहाँ पे, are we able to check that out? I'll show you how that happens, but are we able to see resolved, pending, and rejected? Do you think this alternative is much better in that case? Yes. And the other thing that is one biggest reason why we use promises is called callback hell. Have you guys heard about it? I mean, we are learning JavaScript. You should have heard about this thing by now. Callback hell sune? Do you know what does this thing means? People say this a lot, but they don't actually know what that means, right? Here's the thing. Callback creates complexity, right? This thing is for sure. If you haven't known this yet, let me tell you how that happens. So let's go and create a complexity. कोई एक complex situation बना. ठीक? But first help me with a simple situation. I have an object, right, which is called data, and iske andar it's an array with an object, and it has it has hat, right, as item. So let's say product name, or rather prod name, and this thing is hat, and I guess price can be 600, and we have one more thing, which is shirt. Take, and this thing, let's say it's 900. Take price, of course. Okay, and again price for this thing. Take, I have to create an array which just returns this thing, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a function, right, which says what can I call this function? Let's say get data. Take get data, and this does nothing but X control V, it returns this data, return the data. Okay, so if I go and do console.log data, I'm gonna get this array with objects. Yes, no, quickly. Jaldi batao. This thing is too small for us to think or ponder about it for long times. Yes, let's say I have to create a function which basically finds data, right? So let's say find product. Take, and this thing accepts item ka naam, right? So let's say, sorry, if I'm writing this and if I say hat, I should only get hat wale objects. What can I use here in this function? Can I go for a filter? Filter might help. Filter might help. ठीक. So यहाँ पे what I'll do is let data equals to get data. Do you think I'm gonna get my data if I run this function in line number 53? If I console.log data, am I gonna get the data? Yes. And इसके अंदर if I go and do let end data equals to data dot filter, how can I filter it? Quickly, people, quickly. Element, how can I filter it? Element dot product name should be equal to item, right? Item, whatever item we are providing. So let's go and write element dot product name should be equals to item. So now this thing, if I go and console dot log, I'm gonna write the bracket. Am I gonna get the data? Right? We're getting undefined because we are not returning in data. ठीक, तो am I getting array with only hat वाला data? Right? इतना part clear है? Any doubts in this thing? This thing is pretty clear. Simple bang. ठीक, बहुत पहले करते थे. Which kind of programming is this? Is this async or synchronous? Synchronous, everything is running line by line, but again, this data is provided by your server, right? So do you think this should take time? अभी तो 2 से डील कर रहे हैं, let's say 2 million से डील कर रहे हैं. This should take time. Yes, yes. How can we showcase it here? I can add a set timeout. Yes. So let's say I have let data and this, and I can write a set timeout, not interval, timeout. And in here, I can create an empty function, anonymous one, and I can go and put this thing. Let me comment the console, put this thing there, and मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'm just assigning data the value of this thing. Is that clear? What am I trying to do here? Right? And यहाँ पे I'm just gonna give it 2 seconds का delay. Right? So I'm creating a data variable and let's go with empty array. Why? Because empty array नहीं लेंगे तो this thing filter is gonna throw an error. ठीक, I'm gonna take empty array. Right? And in this set timeout, I'm gonna provide it data once the time is complete. Now, is this a async type of program? Right? So do you think if I console.log, I'm still gonna get data? थोड़ा सोचते हैं why that won't happen. Line number 45 gets defined. Let data is defined as a array, but this is async. So should my code wait for this async code? Was that the point of creating async code? No, right? ये चला जाएगा web API में and we are gonna still run everything line by line. So let data equals to empty array and then instantaneously we are gonna return data. Yes or no? We're gonna instantaneously return data. Guys, एक बार बताओ जल्दी से समझ आया कि नहीं? right? So if I uncomment this, I'm getting empty array, right? Right? No fastly device. Okay. Okay. ठीक है. So initially, बिना timeout के we were writing data. That was synchronous type of code. What we are trying to do here is we are trying to remake a bit of fetch, right? So this fetch actually takes time, right? But for now, we don't have any server and we don't know how to fetch. So I have just added set timeout ki this data ko, the value is gonna given to be data after 2 seconds. ठीक? So I'm sort of recreating fetch, right? But is my code gonna wait for this thing to complete, given that this is async code? Web API है. Wait नहीं करेगा, right? So data equals to empty array and it's gonna quickly return it. ठीक? That's why if I console.log anything, it's gonna be empty. ठीक? अभी clear है, guys? अभी clear है? ठीक? So how can we fix this? Any idea? We can fix this via callback because yes, callback can always fix async functions, but how? Any guesses? No idea? ठीक है, ठीक है. So what I'm gonna do here is कैसे ठीक है चलो let's try that. Let me just comment everything. यहाँ पे what we're gonna do is we're gonna directly call our function get data. ठीक? And in this function we are gonna send a callback function. ठीक? So should we accept a callback function here in get data? If I'm sending a callback function, I should be accepting it. So I'm gonna accept a callback function, right? And मैं क्या करूँगा? Once this data is set no, I'm gonna जब ये set timeout is done running, I'm gonna give this callback this date. Are you guys getting what I'm trying to do here? एक बात बताना quickly. If I decrease the size, is this still visible? Is it fine? Because it's messing things. Tell me quickly. Fine है अभी भी. The size you can still visible. ठीक है. चल. So let's try to understand किया क्या मैंने अभी. In this find product function, I'm calling this get data function, and उसके अंदर I'm creating a asynchronous function, anonymous function. I'm trying to send an anonymous function. Should we accept a callback function in here in get data? Right? So I'm accepting that callback function, and in return मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ callback function में I'm sending this data once this set timeout is done running. Set timeout complete हुआ, then I'm gonna send this data. Is that clear what I'm trying to do? Right? So do we still need to return data? We're not using anything. Right? ठीक है. तो I'm sending callback के अंदर data. तो am I not gonna get data inside this thing? This callback. यहाँ पे callback के अंदर data भेजा मैं. Callback function. Yeah. Yes. That was the point of callback, right? Callback function को this name can be anything. Right? Callback वाला function. ठीक. Let me fix this here. This name can be anything. जरूरी नहीं है you have to name it callback. ठीक. But this thing is that callback. Is that clear? Right? तो अभी इसके अंदर I'm sending data. So should I receive data here? Tell me. Right? ठीक है. तो I'm gonna write data array. All right. And इसके अंदर I can go and just do that stuff. So let me just copy this and let me just paste this. यहाँ पे please come forward and this thing I'm gonna uncomment. But यहाँ पे this thing should be data. ठीक. So now what, let me just uncomment this for now. What we are basically doing is in line number 63, we are calling this get data function. And in that function, we are sending an anonymous function or rather a callback function. ठीक, in line number 44, we are accepting that callback function and उस callback function के अंदर we are sending some data. Right? Now we are accepting that data and we are trying to do some functions in here. ठीक, and turning it, let me just quickly console dot log n data. ठीक, तो let me just quickly call find product with hat. Check. So after 2 seconds, let me refresh it again. After 2 seconds, I'm gonna receive an array with hat ka data, right? Let's say I go and write find product with shirt. After 2 seconds, I'm gonna get those data, right? पहले hat का मिलेगा and then shirt का मिलेगा, right? तो callback can fix everything, but tell me सच्चाई बताना, even though I was guiding you all the way long, was it too hard to focus कि क्या हो रहा है, किस में क्या पास कर रहे हैं, किस में क्या पास कर रहे हैं? Was that difficult? अच्छा, नो भी बोल रहे हो, ठीक है. I expected difficult, but ठीक है, ठीक है. So this thing is basically a bit difficult to track callback, right? I was telling you guys that's why you were able to understand. ठीक, maybe you have been accustomed to मैं जो बोलता हूँ समझने का. But let's say if I gave you this thing and told you कि try to understand this shit, will you be able to understand कि लिखा क्या है ये? So even though I like if I give my colleagues to write, they'll take 5 to 6 minutes to think कि ये हो क्या रहा है, right? Which thing is passing what and which thing is passing what, right? So the issue is कि callback is hard to maintain. ठीक, callback जो है वो है hard to maintain, right? And it increases complexity. ठीक, complexity, right? So we can fix this by using promises. That's why we need promises. अभी समझेंगे कि how we can do that. ठीक है, तो this thing is also called callback help, right? If we get some time in the end, I'll show you one more example of callback help. ठीक, but अगर time बचा तो चलो. So let's quickly get back to creating promises. How can we create promises, guys? Quickly, जल्दी से बताओ, how can we create promises? Let promise and all, and voila, you have your promise, right? Right. ठीक है, तो let's say I am creating let promise equals to new promise, right? Now this is gonna be accepting a callback function, and that callback function should receive two things. It should be either resolve or it can be reject. ठीक, now for now, if I go and do console.log promise, I'm getting promise as pending, right? Right. But let's say if I get the resolve wala method and if I call it, what am I getting in promise? It's fulfilled, right? So you pass resolve whenever your async function or rather async code is done running, right? Once that async code is done running, you pass resolve, right? Else, let's say your async code is still working, it's gonna send pending by default. ठीक, but let's say if that thing has failed, network or server threw some error, you can write reject. ठीक, and that promise will be rejected. ठीक, now you can see something in here, promise result, which is undefined. undefined, right? Right, and that thing is still there for resolve also. Let's see, is it? So you'll see that thing is still there, right? So what does this mean? This thing has some value which can be passed in this, right? Once that thing is resolved, you can say key data is loaded, resolved, right? You can pass a message in there, right? So if I go back in here, am I getting that message? Data is loaded, resolved, right? So this is how we send a promise. Take so now let's go back and let's try to create a promise with a async functionality, right? So let promise equals to new promise, and in here I'm going to pass a function, and this is going to accept two parameters, right? Which are those? Which are those? Resolve and reject. Take. This thing is just the name of these things, right? It can either be resolved or rejected, but you know the conditions with parameters. Can I update the name and this still works if the order is correct? Yes, yes. So resolve ho gaya, and let me write it as reject ho, right? So if I go in here and let's say I write let's say I have a variable out here, right, which is called flag, and by default that flag doesn't have any value. Take once I'm in here, I'm gonna write a set timeout, right? Set timeout, and in this set timeout, I'm gonna write an anonymous function, and उस function के अंदर I'm gonna write flag equals to true. Take, and I'm going to give it a delay of 4 milliseconds, 4000 milliseconds actually. Take, so I'm going to write in here if flag is true, right? This thing is for true. This thing is for true or not, right? So if flag is true, what I'll do is I'll basically resolve this, right? So resolve ho gaya, and data has a flag is true now. Yes. So if I go and console.log promise, what do you guys think? What's gonna happen? Console.log promise, right? Let's see. Let's see. So second, am I getting the data flag ko? I think I'll have to give some value. ठीक है. ठीक है. So ठीक है. For now, इसके लिए I'll have to make a function. चलो कोई नहीं. So if it's true, it's gonna enter this, and you can name this anyway, and you can get this thing. ठीक. तो अभी सेट टाइम आउट को छोड़ो. चलो एक काम करते हैं, फंक्शन बना. ठीक है. तो let's create a function actually, and function and flag status, right? And this function is gonna, इसको कुछ देना है. Let flag and let's keep it empty. Take, and this function is gonna return something, right? So promise is a value and it can be assigned some value, right? Itna clear hai by now. The promise is a value, right? So can I assign promise to a return statement? Return statement can have a value. If I return one return hoga. Yes, no, quickly. If I return one, and if I do console.log flag status, so I'm gonna get one as return, है ना? So if I go and write new promise, and इसके अंदर let me just implement this function and this thing. Do you guys think I'm still gonna send a promise? क्योंकि promise is a value, object rather. I should return a promise, right? So if I go and uncomment this thing, I'm gonna return a promise. Take now, let's do one thing. Let's wrap this thing in a set timeout. But then set timeout के अंदर wrap करेंगे. So this function will go in your call stack and ठीक है चलो. So I'm gonna call that function with something. ठीक है. So in here, let's get this thing. Actually, let's get this. Let's put it there and यहाँ पे we flag console.log flag is tick promise is green is a method. Promise is your constructor function. ठीक तो वो प्रॉमिस कंस्ट्रक्टर से बन के आ रहा है बट फिर यार फिर अच्छा चलो एक काम करते हैं फॉर दिस थिंग यू गाइज हैव टू नो अबाउट डॉट देन एंड डॉट कैच तो लेट मी टीच यू गाइज दैट फर्स्ट चलो ठीक है कोई नहीं we'll get back to this but first let promise and पहले भी किया है तो let me just get that this thing क्विकली बताओ इतना पार्ट तो क्लियर है ना कि प्रॉमिस क्या है एंड व्हाट इट रिटर्न्स एंड ऑल उतना क्लियर है ठीक सो आई एम पासिंग रिजॉल्व एंड आई एम रिजॉल्विंग विद सम डेटा राइट तो दिस प्रॉमिस कैन बी हैंडल्ड राइट तो प्रॉमिस कैन बी हैंडल्ड बाय यूजिंग इट्स मेथड्स ठीक तो promise has some method and it can be handled by using these methods. तो where are methods store in constructor functions or objects? Object के method कहाँ store होते हैं? Correct, ज्योति correct, जीवन correct. Prototype में तो if I click on prototype, you will see we have some methods in here like catch, finally and then. So if I go and do promise dot then and इसके अंदर let's say I'm again writing this right so if I go and console.log this res what am I getting whatever I have passed in this thing right so I'm gonna get that as a result ठीक so dot then comes in place if you are resolving it right मान लो it gets rejected then you are gonna pass dot catch ठीक so in dot catch again you're gonna pass a callback function it's gonna be anonymous one and इसके अंदर you are gonna get that error and you will console dot log that error ठीक for now this thing is complete तो एक काम करते हैं let's just comment this thing and let's just reject it ठीक तो we are getting an error and server or let's say 404 server ठीक तो if the promise gets rejected it is sent to your catch wala block and if it is resolved it gets sent to your dot then wala resolve can I say promise is a constructor function or it is an object देखो if anyone else has this doubt promise is an object ठीक इतना क्लियर है सबको I'm telling you guys promise is an object clear and how do we create objects in JavaScript inherently fundamentally basically किस चीज से create करते हैं we have constructor functions for them ठीक so let's say I have object I can go and write new object and I'm gonna use this new constructor function to create an object so if I console.log obj I'm getting an empty object right तो object बनाया by using an object constructor function that's how I'm creating promise by using promise का constructor function clear Harshit, clear? Is that doubt clear? Then sir, constructor function हुआ ना? No, no. Promise is an object and we create it from constructor. ठीक? ठीक है? ठीक? तो promise is an object and we create it from, यहाँ पे लिख भी देता हूँ, and we create it from constructor. Right? मान लो, if I do this, right? What will you tell me? Is object a constructor or object is an object? ठीक? That's it. Right? So yeah, name can be anything. So this thing can be called anything. One, that's fine. So we'll have to fix these things also. So one, and there you go. It's fine. Name can be anything. Variable ka naam can be anything. In that we are creating that. Take line number 1112 and line number 15. I'll tell you shortly. इतना क्लियर है कि promise is an object and it is created from promise constructor. दिमाग में बैठ गया ये बात? Everyone? Everyone? ठीक? And promises have three states. Promises have three states. It can either be pending, it can be resolved, or it can be rejected. ठीक? And how do we deal with them? Given that it is an object, right? Let me remove this quickly. It is an object, so can I access uska methods by writing dot? Right? So if I write one dot then, will I be able to access then method? Guys, yes, no, 1, 0, quickly. Right? And this then method accepts an anonymous function, right? And uske andar it gets this thing as arguments, right? So yahan pe you can name it anything. Arguments. I'm just naming arguments, right? And in here I can go and console.log that argument. ठीक? So in case this thing is resolved, right? This thing is resolved. I'm gonna get that argument in here and उसको मैं print कर दूं. Dot then clear हुआ? Dot then clear हुआ? ठीक? उसी तरीके से we have one more method and we can chain that, right? So if dot then is true, if resolve is there, then this thing is gonna work. अगर ये काम नहीं करता है, then we can add one more thing which is dot catch. ठीक? It also accepts an anonymous function and a message which is basically usually error. ठीक? So let's say this thing is rejected. Rejected. Now this thing will turns out to be false क्योंकि it's rejected, not resolved. ठीक? So now we are gonna enter this catch wala block. In here I can go and console.log error and ये error will print the message that we have passed in. अभी clear है? Clear everyone? Dot then or dot catch कैसे कर रहे हैं? Dot then means that resolved and cat mean rejected. Yes. Yes. Tick. Tick. And then you have one more method which is called dot finally. Right? तो ये कब काम करता है? It works in both cases. Even if it's dot then, it's resolved or rejected, this thing will always work and you guessed it right. इसके अंदर we're gonna get a anonymous function. Right? And you can just go and print something in here. Right? So done. Right? It's gonna run. Yes, these are inbuilt. If you go and console.log your promise, right? हमने one variable के अंदर we stored a promise. So if I go and console.log this one, I'm getting this promise. And इस promise के अंदर I have this prototype, no? Prototype के अंदर you'll see कि you have catch, finally, dot then, ये सारे methods are there. Inbuilt. अभी clear है सबको? ठीक. तो ठीक है, let's do one thing. Have a break of 5 minutes here and then उसके बाद we'll continue. ठीक है? All right, so everyone get back at 18. And if I call widget method empty, guys, anyone with doubt, जो लोग हैं यहाँ पे अभी, we have just seen कि how Promix works. अभी तक हमने we haven't seen how it works with async functions. Right, everyone back? Everyone back? ठीक है. चलो तो the fundamentals of promise, is that clear? How many states we can send from a promise, how can we accept those states, itna part clear hai? So can I say like this, basically call, I can say then is basically call the promise for remember. No, no, then basically calls the promise, or then let me write it here, then runs when you return resolve from a promise, right? Then tab run karta hai. Catch runs when you return reject from a promise, right? And this one finally it's gonna run in all the cases. अभी क्लियर है? देन कब यूज करना है, कैच कब यूज करना है सबको? अब किसी को भी कोई डाउट? जूम अ लिटिल, या लेट मी जूम इट बैक। ये लो, ठीक है। अभी किसी को भी कोई डाउट? देन कब लिखना है? आई कैन रिलेट विद फंक्शन, हाँ, इफ फॉर योर सेल्फ, या यू कैन, ठीक है। चलो तो लेट्स ट्राई टू यूज प्रॉमिस विद अ एसिंक टाइप ऑफ कोड, ठीक है। सो यहाँ पे let's create a flag, right? And flag को let's keep it false for now, and let's create a promise. So mm, let's name it promise, or do you guys want to name it anything else? So promise, right? Let's call this that. How do we create promise? By going for its constructor function, and in this constructor function, what do we have to pass? A callback function, right? Which is anonymous, right? And in this anonymous function, we have to accept two parameters, right? Right? Basically, what are they called? Resolved and reject. Take, but do the name has to be this thing always, or it can be anything? Can be anything. You just have to mind the order. Take, now in this, I'm gonna go for a set timeout, right? तो promise के अंदर I'm gonna go for a set timeout, and उस set timeout में what does set timeout takes? Again a callback function, right? And a delay, right? So let's say we have a delay of 2 seconds. Okay, now in this function, let's do one thing. If flag is true, अगर flag true है, तो let's create an object, and इसके अंदर we already have that object, right? Let me get that object, this one. ठीक है, तो I'm gonna get that object का array, and I'm gonna put it here. This thing and this and this. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे रख देता हूँ so that you don't get confused. I'm just taking an object, creating an object variable, and उसको I'm giving this array of object का value. ठीक, we can change, yeah, correct. Parameters, so these parameter is of function. I'm not sure what you're asking, but ये parameter you have to pass 2 of them. Take, and once this timeout is done running, and if your flag is false or true, you will basically resolve it, right? हम resolve करते हैं, yes. So we are gonna resolve it, and I'm gonna send the object in this. Take, and मान लो by any chance if this is else, we can reject it, and इसके अंदर I can send a message, right? And that message can be server error request failed, right? This is something that you're gonna get. ठीक, तो I have created my promise, right? Abhi, if I go and console that promise, am I gonna get the things? So if I console console.log the promise, our promise actually, our promise. I'm gonna get the prompt कि for now the promise is pending. ठीक, तो ये prompt तो आएगा if you are directly getting and printing this promise, right? Right? How can we deal with this thing? Deal with this thing? Do we have something that is called dot then and dot catch? Right? Right? तो हम क्या करेंगे? We'll go in here and we'll go with our promise and इसके अंदर I'm gonna do a dot. ठीक? Now again guys, if you are still facing issue here, let me just console.log our promise again. ठीक? Our promise के अंदर if I go and check the prototype के अंदर we have some methods, right? Catch is a function, finally is a function, dot then is a function, right? उसी तरीके से if I go and console.log an array, I'm gonna get prototype inside it and उस prototype के अंदर you have functions like fill, filter and all. So I can go and do this find and all. That works. उसी तरीके से can I not pick my promise and उसके अंदर run the method? Yes. Okay, how many of you guys are confused here that I can do this thing from dot then? Dot then is nothing but a method. So rather than doing this, I'm just gonna write method. Can I do this? Our promise, given that it is an object, I can do dot method on it. Guys, 1 or 0, everyone, quickly. So that I'll know कि किस तरीके से आपको आगे बताना है. If you don't get it, please write 0. ठीक? Okay. Okay. So see, this promise is an object, right? Let object equals to something like this, right? So promise is just an object, promise नाम देने दो, and it has 3 things, right? It has promise state and promise result. ठीक, तो वो भी objects ही है. It has another object which is called promise state and promise. It is an object and we have promise result, right? So you get an idea. So can I not pick this promise and उसके अंदर if we have some method, let's say I have a method function, this thing. Can I not call that method by writing promise dot method? Right? Right? तो उसी तरीके से promises के अंदर भी the methods are there, right? It's stored in prototype हम लोग पढ़ चुके. ठीक है, तो वहीं से we can call these functions. तो I can go and run our promise dot then. It's one of the function. अब बताओ quickly dot then कब run करता है? When it's resolve or when it's reject? जब resolve होता है तब, right? तो I'm gonna write dot then and इसके अंदर I'm gonna write function and I can accept what do I accept here? A message which is sent here. Right? For now, what's the message? It's this data object, right? So if I write res, usually लिखते हैं, right? Rest basically resolve होता है और response होता है. तो हम res जाके लिख रहा हूं मैं and I'm gonna do a console.log of this res, right? For now, tell me, am I returning resolve or reject? Take your time. Here's the flag. Tell me. Is this promise returning resolve or reject? Take your time. Okay, it is rejecting क्योंकि flag है false. So am I gonna print anything in dot then? No. So we have to deal with the other conditions. तो मैं क्या करूंगा? I'm gonna go and do a dot catch again, right? And I can chain this thing. Chain का मतलब हम समझते हैं, right? Method chaining can happen. है ना? तो I'm gonna chain this. I'm gonna go and write function and इसके अंदर I'm gonna get the error, जो भी error है. And if I go and do console.log that error, you'll see कि I'm getting that message error. ठीक, but it has a set time of 2 seconds, तो 2 second बाद error आएगा. There you go. Right, right. And then we have one more method which is called finally. When does finally runs? When it's resolved or rejected? In all cases, right? दोनों में चलेगा. So I can go and do all functions done running, right? So it's gonna print your message also, and it's gonna print this also. ठीक है? So if I go and update this false flag के बजाय if I make it true, I'm gonna get that dot then, और मुझे data मिल जाए. ठीक, तो this is exactly what we are gonna do in next lecture. उसमें we have a pre-built JavaScript की तरफ से ही built promise है हमारे पास, right? Which is gonna be called fetch. हम लोग fetch करेंगे data from server and that server is gonna give us some data. Based on कितना बड़ा है database, we are gonna spend some time, but that time won't matter. क्यों? क्योंकि we are dealing it with this. ठीक है? And in here only हम क्या करते हैं? We define let data equals to something, and if it's dot then हम क्या करते हैं? We give data the value of res. ठीक? And then we go and just use that data. Right? So for now it's undefined. Let me refresh it again. Acha, my bad. I'll have to use it here, you know. So we can go and use that data. ठीक, clear है? How we do that? ठीक, तो पर्पस समझ आया प्रॉमिस का, हाउ वी यूज इट. ठीक, फॉर नाउ वी आर क्रिएटिंग द प्रॉमिस, इसलिए यू सी दीज मेनी लाइंस ऑफ कोड. यू विल जस्ट सी दीज थिंग्स डॉट देन और डॉट कैच, बट यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि प्रॉमिस बना कैसे, हाउ थिंग्स हैपन इन बिहाइंड साइड. ठीक, AS5 या AS6 जब मैं A6 पढ़ाऊंगा ना तब बताऊंगा. ठीक है, अभी फिर नाम लूंगा, यू वोंट अंडरस्टैंड, बट दैट डजंट मैटर. 2 लेक्चर है A6 के, आराम से कुछ बताऊंगा. ठीक, ठीक है, चलो. राइट, तो इतना क्लियर है. तो आई हैव कोड फॉर यू गाइस. एक सेकेंड, आई थिंक आई लॉस्ट द लिंक. जस्ट गिव मी अ सेकेंड. दिस वन. ठीक, कोड पेन याद है गाइस? कोड पेन याद है क्या? कोड पेन याद है, राइट? तो इन हियर आई हैव क्रिएटेड अ प्रॉमिस. ठीक, इन दिस फंक्शन, राइट? तो इस फंक्शन का नाम आई हैव जस्ट गिवन इट सम बिग नेम, स्टिमुलेटिंग नेटवर्क रिक्वेस्ट, एंड आई हैव क्रिएटेड अ फेच फ्लैग व्हिच इज सेट टू ट्रू. ठीक, ये फंक्शन एक्सेप्ट्स 2 थिंग, फर्स्ट डेटा एंड सेकंड डिले, हाउ मच यू वांट टू डिले, राइट? आई एम सेंडिंग द डेटा फ्रॉम माय साइड, तो यहाँ पे डेटा इज अ मैसेज and that delay is 2 seconds for now, right? Basically I'm running this function, and what is this function returning me? What am I getting in return from this function? A promise. ठीक, so you just have to fulfill these 2 things. Use resolve is if fetch flag is true and pass the data in that resolve, else reject it, right? And then write your dot then and dot catch here. Is that sounds doable, guys? Doable, right? Okay, I'll give you guys the link and please try it. Okay, so I'll paste that link in all chat. There you go. And I'll give you guys 5 entire minute. And for reference also, you guys can open the website. So now for reference, I'll just keep it there. ठीक, ये यहाँ पे रख देता हूँ so that you guys can refer it. I know you have just learned it. ठीक, तो ये रहा आपका function, and here it is how you use dot then and all. ठीक, तो everyone report by 38. Sir, explain again. Okay, let me explain this question quickly again. I have created a function. ये function क्या return कर रहा है? What is this function returning? Quickly. Shake quickly बताओ. Promise return कर रहा है, right? तो this promise आपको basically you have to, I've created this set timeout and all you have to do is यहाँ पे you either resolve it, basically you have to write the if and else condition जैसे मैंने यहाँ पे लिखा है, right? So if your fetch flag is true, you have to resolve it. I have passed a message here. ठीक, you are accepting that message as data, right? So basically resolve and send that data, right? And else you can send this error occur. And finally, you do the dot then and dot catch yourself. Clear? Okay, I'll open the code for your reference also. Sure. By 39, I need everyone to give an answer. I mean, if you're done, just write done or one. Done ही लिखो because one is for समझ आया. Right? Great, Harshit. Are you getting things in return? Console पे जाके check करो. Click on console and check if you're getting things. Promise return. Right? Great. Shake great. Guys, done तभी लिखना जब यहाँ पे you are getting the promise. Dot then या dot catch whatever you're passing. Number of question increase. Assignment में you're not getting enough questions or what? Right, Jeevan, are you getting the solutions? Answers मिल रहे हैं? Only 3 questions होते हैं. ठीक है, तो I mean, the weeks are working days, right? तो सबको ही I think they are not able to do 3 questions even. ठीक है, तो सबको साथ में लेके चलना है. सबका साथ सबका विकास. But if you want to practice, अभी के लिए एडवांस कहाँ प्रैक्टिस करोगे? Let me teach fetch at least. Then you can practice by creating websites. Take once we are done with fetch, no, then you will be able to get data from databases. So there are plenty of databases. I'll point you guys there and you can use that database. Fetch करो, data use करो, बनाओ website. ठीक है, but fetch होने दो, next lecture होने दो. ठीक. Website as in for problems. Maybe visit Geeks for Geeks. शायद उधर मिल जाए कुछ. I'm not really sure कि advanced JS की प्रॉब्लम कहाँ करोगे आप. Again, that interviewbit.in पे जाओ and you can check for advanced JS questions. उधर you can get some questions, but the questions are with solutions at the same time. तो मे बी उधर चेक करूं. ठीक है गाइस, आर वी डन पीपल? सबने ट्राई किया? आर योर प्रोमिसेस वर्किंग? राइट, चलो कोई नहीं, चलो साथ में करते हैं सब कोई. इन हेयर आई एम रिटर्निंग अ प्रॉमिस. यहाँ पे ध्यान दो सब, एवरीवन. गाइस, आर वी रिटर्निंग अ प्रॉमिस? यस नो, यस नो, क्विकली. यस, यस, वी आर रिटर्निंग अ प्रॉमिस. तो इसके अंदर व्हाट आई विल डू इज आई विल राइट इफ एल्स कंडीशन. इफ fetch flag is true. If this is true, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna simply resolve it, right? And resolve करने के साथ I have to pass this data, so I'm gonna pass that data. Else I'm gonna reject it with the error message error occurred. ठीक है? So we are returning this promise with either resolve or reject based on this fetch flag. For now, this thing is getting resolved, right? तो यहाँ पे what do I have to pick? How can I access the promise? How can I access the promise quickly? Promise कोई variable में stored नहीं है. It is stored in a function, right? And I'm calling this function. So यहाँ पे I'm getting that return. So can I add dot then here itself return value पे? ठीक. And if I go and write function and इसके अंदर let's say I'm getting response, so I can go and write console dot log res. ठीक. So if I go back, delay is how much delay is there? 2 seconds. ठीक है, तो we are getting that message, right? Else we can just go and write dot catch and इसके अंदर we can pass our callback function and this thing was error, so we can just go and console dot log s. That's it. That's it. Clear? Everyone can now do this. ठीक. तो बस इतना सा ही होता है आपका प्रॉमिस. इट्स नॉट समथिंग वेरी बिग ऑफ. ठीक है, समझ आया गाइस? प्रॉमिस क्लियर? ठीक. अच्छा, लेट मी नो इफ यू गाइस आर थिंकिंग अबाउट दिस और नॉट. लेट्स से आई हैव अ प्रॉमिस, राइट? एंड न्यू प्रॉमिस एंड इसके अंदर this thing. Let's say if I'm resolving this promise, right? Let me pass resolve and reject, and I'm rejecting it also. कौन सा वाला एक्सेप्ट होगा? डू यू थिंक कौन सा एक्सेप्ट होने वाला? रिजॉल्व और रिजेक्ट? फर्स्ट वन या फिर लास्ट वन? ओके, तो फर्स्ट वन and this will be last one, right? Let me just get that promise and dot then and इसके अंदर let me write the function, right? So res and let me just do console dot log this. What am I getting? First one, right? But let's say if I'm writing dot catch to and इसके अंदर I'm passing my is function doing console dot log error. If I go and put reject first, I'm gonna get a reject. ठीक है, तो you can't go and write both of them. कोई एक रिटर्न करना पड़ेगा. ये भी क्लियर है? ठीक. तो let's see one more example of why we don't need callback when we have promises. We have 18 minutes. Yeah, we can do it. ठीक. तो for now when you creating websites, उसका flow कैसे रखा था? Let's say you are creating a e-com website. User has selected a product. This product is going to be sent to your cart page. Cart page say you're going to send your user to payment page, right? Payment page say you're going to send user to payment डिटेल पेज एंड देन फाइनली बैक टू डैशबोर्ड, ऐसा कुछ होता है। कोड पेन ऑब्जेक्ट तो लिखे ही नहीं हमने, तो फिर रिजेक्ट और रिजल्ट, ओके कहाँ पे ऑब्जेक्ट, देखो दिस दिस यहाँ पे दिस फंक्शन ये क्या रिटर्न कर रहा है, इट्स रिटर्निंग अ प्रॉमिस, यस हु आस्क्ड मी, साक्षी, ये फंक्शन प्रॉमिस रिटर्न कर रहा है राइट। तो क्या इस कॉल की वैल्यू वही होगी जो रिटर्न कर रहा है ये फंक्शन, राइट। तो क्या ये कॉल प्रॉमिस है, राइट, प्रॉमिस क्या है, ऑब्जेक्ट है, एंड दैट ऑब्जेक्ट पे कैन आई नॉट अप्लाई डॉट देन डॉट कैच, है ना। इट्स समथिंग लाइक दिस ओनली। लेट्स से आपके पास एक फंक्शन, राइट, फंक्शन एंड लेट मी कॉल इट प्रिंट, एंड दैट फंक्शन इज रिटर्निंग एन ऑब्जेक्ट a1, ठीक। तो ये फंक्शन इज फाइनली रिटर्निंग एन ऑब्जेक्ट, so if I go and do let value equals to print, ठीक, और मैं उसको कॉल भी कर रहा हूँ, तो if I do value dot something, will I be able to get that value dot a, if I go and do console dot log value dot a, right, I'll be able to access it, one मिल रहा है, साक्षी you there, right, yes, yes। तो rather than doing this, अगर मैं डायरेक्टली प्रिंट को पकड़ लूँ, ठीक, तो स्टिल आई एम डूइंग दैट, रिटर्न को ही एक्सेप्ट कर रहा हूँ, तो आई एम स्टिल गेटिंग वन, तो बस मैं वैसा ही कुछ कर रहा हूँ, क्लियर, चलो ठीक है। क्या कर रहे थे हम लोग, हाँ जस्ट, तो हम लोग ऐसा कुछ कर रहे थे, राइट। फॉर नाउ लास्ट क्या था आपका कंस्ट्रक्ट पेज, उसमें यू माइट हैव गॉन फॉर विंडो डॉट लोकेशन डॉट एचरेफ, राइट, ऐसे कुछ कर रहे होगे, राइट। बट क्या होता है इन योर लाइक organizations, these things needs to be encrypted, राइट, ताकि किसी और को आपके डेटा के बारे में पता ना चले, ठीक। तो एवरीथिंग इज रैप्ड इनसाइड फंक्शंस, ठीक। तो लेट्स जस्ट ट्राई टू डू दैट, बट हम पूरे फंक्शंस तो क्रिएट नहीं करेंगे, वी डोंट हैव दैट मच टाइम और स्कोप, तो we're just gonna write small thing, let's say I have function, right, and इसमें let's say order placed हुआ, right, order placed, ठीक। तो इन दिस ऑर्डर प्लेस्ड आई एम गोना सेंड अ कॉल बैक, राइट, एक कॉल बैक फंक्शन आई एम गोना एक्सेप्ट इट, क्योंकि ऐसा कुछ करने वाला हूँ, we're gonna get order placed, राइट, उसके बाद ऑर्डर प्लेस का डेटा शुड गो इन योर पेमेंट पेज, राइट, एंड देन यूजर शुड बी एबल टू सी द डिटेल्स, राइट, यस और नो गाइस, 1 और 0 लिख दिया करो, सो दैट आई विल नो कि यू गाइस आर विद मी, है ना। तो यहाँ से डेटा शुड बी सेंड टू दिस वन एंड डेटा शुड बी सेंड टू दिस वन, राइट। सो दैट्स व्हाई आई एम टेकिंग द कॉल बैक, क्योंकि इसके अंदर आई एम गोना पास द डेटा फॉर दिस, एंड उसके बाद इस फंक्शन के अंदर आई एम गोना पास द कॉल बैक फॉर दिस, ठीक। आई एम ट्राइंग टू क्रिएट अ कॉल बैक हेल्प, राइट। सो लेट्स से डेटा सेंडिंग में थोड़ा टाइम लगा, राइट, यूजर का इंटरनेट वाज स्लो, तो आई एम डूइंग दैट, लेट मी जस्ट कंसोल डॉट लॉग ऑर्डर प्लेस्ड, एंड उसके बाद यहाँ पे लेट्स ऐड 1 सेकेंड का डिले, right, then we are gonna have another function which is gonna be payment done, right, और payment page, ठीक। इसके अंदर again we are gonna get a call back, क्योंकि हमें डिटेल्स पे भी डेटा भेजना है, तो let's go for that, let's add a set timeout, and इसके अंदर let me create function, again the same thing, this is just on a console dot log payment done, one second, ठीक, एंड कॉल बैक ले रहे हैं, तो वी शुड कॉल दैट कॉल बैक वंस वी आर डन विद, So let me just call that also. And then we have one more function. This will be show details, right? And this thing is again gonna take callback. Chalo, ठीक है. Let's pass a callback. And then let's go with set timeout. And it's under I'm gonna pass a function. And let's say log receipt generate table. Take and then let's call that callback. ठीक है. So basically we are calling this function and उसके अंदर we are gonna call this function and उसके अंदर we are gonna call this function, right? तो async code है. This thing is gonna be dealt with web APIs. Web APIs is gonna handle this. है ना? है ना? ठीक है. ठीक है. So for now let's say I don't want to use promise use नहीं करना. तो we'll have to go with callback, right? Callbacks के साथ जाना पड़ेगा. Right, so I'm gonna call my order placed first क्योंकि first the user has to place an order, right? Order place is accepting an call, right? Order place में let me pass my second callback, which should be this payment page, right? तो let me write an anonymous function and इसके अंदर पेमेंट पेज, ठीक, पेमेंट पेज को कॉल करेंगे एंड देन पेमेंट पेज के बाद वी हैव टू सेंड द यूजर टू शो डिटेल. तो उसके अंदर फिर से आई एम गोना क्रिएट अनदर कॉल बैक एंड उसके अंदर आई एम गोना आस्क द यूजर टू शो डिटेल, ठीक, एंड उसके अंदर वी आर अगेन गेटिंग अ कॉल बैक and that callback is finally gonna print console.log order placement. Yeah. Take. Now if we go and see, the order is placed, payment is done, receipt generated, and order placement is done. This is the order that we wanted to follow, right? So that is being followed. User एकदम user मतलब interface is working fine, right? But is this something that seems fine? इस तरीके से nest करना function को. Do we like nested stuff, be it loops or objects or anything? We don't like it, right? Because हमने काफी steps miss किए. User is gonna first log in, then it's gonna select stuff, then उसको वो cart page पे send करेगा. He's gonna send multiple things in cart page. He's gonna select few things from cart page to place order. Then this thing is gonna happen. कितना depth जाने वाला है? Can you guys just imagine? I'm gonna tell you. एक second देना. I have one of the snippets in which I have to basically read the data from a file submitted, like someone submitted a file. I have to read that data and then उस data के base पे I have to tell them if this thing is gonna pass or not. ठीक, तो I took the, यार मैंने वो कोड कहीं पे रखा है, just give me a second. हाँ ठीक है. तो this thing is again for reference, बस देखने के लिए here, ठीक. तो यहाँ पे क्या किया मैंने, फर्स्ट आई वाज रीडिंग अ फाइल. देयर इज अ फंक्शन व्हिच इज गोना रीड अ फाइल. उसमें आई एम गोना पास द फाइल एंड आई एम गोना पास कॉल बैक फंक्शन, ठीक. बेस्ड ऑन द फाइल का कंटेंट आई एम गोना रन इफ एंड एल्स कंडीशन. इफ दैट फाइल इज करप्टेड आई एम गोना थ्रो एन एरर. अगर वो फाइल करप्टेड नहीं है देन आई एम गोना एंटर दिस थिंग एंड आई एम गोना एक्चुअली रीड द फाइल, ठीक. तो पहला स्टेप था चेक द फाइल इफ इट्स करप्टेड और नॉट. फाइल इज ठीक है तो वी आर गोना एंटर दिस प्रोसेस, ठीक. इसके अंदर आई एम गोना चेक एक और आई एम गोना पास अ कॉल बैक एंड उसके अंदर आई एम गोना प्रोसेस द डेटा, राइट. बेसिकली मैं रीड करूंगा कि उसके अंदर क्या क्या लिखा हुआ, ठीक. इफ देर इज समथिंग प्रेजेंट, कुछ है उसके अंदर, तो आई एम गोना गो फॉर एल्स कंडीशन. इफ देर इज नथिंग, मैं ये एरर थ्रो कर दूंगा, ठीक. एंड उसके बाद आई एम गोना मेक एन एपीआई कॉल, राइट. This thing is still gonna be nested क्योंकि इसके बाद read file is also being passed somewhere, right? So there is a function and उसके अंदर read file is also being passed, right? So don't you think these things get bit more hard to manage, right? Right? So callback has this issue, even though it can do that, but manage karna gets harder as you go and create more complexity. ठीक? That's why this thing is called callback hell, right? So let me just keep it there, but ठीक है चलो, just for a reference. ठीक? So how can we fix this by promises? We can fix this, right? We can just go for dot then and dot catch, and this whole thing can be maintained, right? Readability बढ़ा देंगे हम. How? We have to basically convert this thing into your promises. So ठीक है. Let's say I'm gonna return promise, to return new, and we're gonna return a promise. Take promise, and promise is gonna have some functions, resolve and resolve. Take, and now in these functions, let's take this entire stuff and let's pass it. Take, so once we are doing this, we don't need to go for callbacks. So callbacks चाहिए ही नहीं. We can just say कि data हो गया, तो we can resolve. All right, we don't need callbacks anymore. तो बस इतना सा ही tweak करना है in everything. Let me just quickly do that. But let me copy this and पुराना code वैसे ही छोड़ देता हूँ, so that you guys can refer them. ठीक है, and let me just get this thing again and let me just copy this, उसको comment कर देता हूँ and let's do it here. ठीक, so that you guys can refer it. We don't need nested these things. We don't need callbacks anywhere. So let me just get them all at once. ठीक, यहाँ पे I'm just gonna add resolve, resolve. ठीक, and I'm just converting everything into a promise. So return, return and new and a promise function, resolve and check. Take, I'm just gonna take this thing and just gonna put it in. Take, same thing goes for this thing. I'm gonna return new promise. This thing is gonna accept this thing, resolve and read. Take, let's copy this. Let's it in here. Let's go this thing and this thing. Refactoring में किसी को कोई issue है? I just converted these functions into promise returning function. That's all. किसी को कोई issue? इतनी सी चीज में promise में convert करना? Guys, anyone, any issue? No? ठीक है. So now that we have converted these things into promise, no, we can very easily handle them. पहले क्या करूंगा? I'm just gonna go and ask my first वाला data कहाँ है? This one. So ठीक है, I'm just gonna ask my order placed and I'm gonna call it. ठीक, once this order is placed, ये function is gonna run. It's gonna return me a promise, right? So this thing is a promise, right? तो मैं क्या करूंगा? I'm gonna do a dot then. ठीक, we are resolving him. ठीक, resolve कर रहे हैं, तो dot then should work. अभी यहाँ पे क्या होगा? We can do something which is called promise chaining, right? तो if dot then ये वाला resolve हो गया ना, I can add the other promise in it. So I'm gonna basically call my payment वाला page. So payment, कुछ और नाम है क्या? Payment page. So payment page. ठीक, तो I'm gonna call this one. ठीक, if this thing is also resolved, तो मैं क्या करूंगा? फिर मैं एक और dot then लिख दूंगा, ठीक है? एंड उसके अंदर मैं फाइनल वाला फंक्शन लिखूंगा, show details, right? And if this thing is also resolved, I can finally write a dot then, and let's say उसके अंदर I'm writing a function console.log user has placed order. ठीक, I'm gonna go and place order. I'm gonna payment done. I'm gonna do a receipt generation and I'm gonna place an order. More easy readability, right? Is it more readable than your initial callback wala function? Right? So yes, we are calling these functions, but मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'm placing the order first. जहाँ से start करना है, I'm gonna start it with that. I'm gonna place that order, and then if that order is done, if this thing is clear, then I'm gonna enter dot then. उसके अंदर I'm gonna use the other function, which is again returning a promise. And if this is also done, if this is also resolved, then I'm gonna run for another thing. Clear? So this promise chaining is also very helpful when you have to prevent callback help. Clear hai kya? Any doubts in anything till here? Clear? So is the reason clear why we have to go for promises rather than callbacks? ठीक? Directly call नहीं कर रहे payment. I mean, you can call payment directly, but ज़्यादा sense क्या बने? We have to follow a set, right? पहले user has to place an order, then we have to go for payment, and then we have to show it. Right? तो direct call करने का मतलब ही नहीं है. We're creating an order. First user is placing order. If he is able to place an order, then only I'll send him to payment page. If this payment page is true, if it is resolving, then only I'll send the user to show detail. And if the detail is shown, then only I'll finally print the user has placed order. ठीक है? And you can even go and individually भी कर सकते हो. We are not adding brackets. वो call अपने आप से कर देगा. ठीक है? That is taken care by JS6. All right. Promise is taking care of that. Harshit, fine. ठीक है. चलो तो yeah, you can do that. Is it clear कि why we don't want to go for callback? Because it creates something which is called callback hell. Basically कुछ नहीं होता है. Callback hell is basically something which developer has named complexity that is created by callback functions. हमने दो examples देखे. First, it decreases readability, and second, it creates a more intense or nested type of code. ठीक, and that is fixed by promises. ठीक, तो हम आगे चल के एक टाइप का promise पढ़ेंगे which is gonna be called fetch, which is gonna be very helpful for calling APIs. Resolve and reject use for pass to another function. Depend करता है. देखो, if this thing is resolved, then हम क्या करेंगे? हम promise को बोलेंगे कि yes this is being resolved, आप resolve send कर दो. तो अगर आपने promise chaining कर रखी है, if that thing is resolved ना, then अगर you have passed a function in that, that will be called. Right? Let's say यहाँ पे मैंने order reject कर दी. ठीक, तो अभी order place होगा, लेकिन उसके बाद कुछ नहीं होगा. Nothing is gonna happen. Right? So for now we are resolved. ठीक, अगले methods call नहीं होंगे. ठीक. And if you want, of course, you can go and do dot then and dot catch individually. वो भी चलेगा क्योंकि this thing is returning promise. That will work. But यहाँ पे मैं एक example दिखाना चाहता था promise chaining का and how this can fix आपका callback function को nest करने का issue. ठीक है? तो अगर मेरे को ये भी refactor करना होता ना, तो I would have added my promises in here, right? And then read file dot then ऐसे करता जाता. ठीक है? Clear guys? Any doubts? Anything?